This is Gemara Metziah, Daf Samach Zayin, and we're holding on the bottom of Samach Vav and Beis. We're 10 lines from the bottom. Unfortunately, we can't learn as Chos Refuah Shalema for the Rosh Hashiva, but we can learn as Chos Aliyas Neshama, Yichel Yitzchak B'Menachem Mendel B'Siyat Dishmaya, the Harbotas HaTaira. That much of it is to his credit. I spent many years, Baruch Hashem, in Yeshiva Frakwe, should be Mala, his Heilige Neshama, higher and higher, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, and he should look down and continue both Sheping Nachas and be a Militz Yosher for all of us in Mirza Hashem. We pick it up about 10 lines on the bottom. The first line is Mishmei De Rabba, continuing the sugya of Asmachta. Amar Rav Nachman teaches Rav Nachman. Now that we know that Asmachta is not koine, very good that you said, if I don't pay you back, you collect from a certain field. Lemaisa, that is not binding. Hadr Arav, Hadra Peri, the field goes back, and the Peiros as well go back. So says the Gemara, what does this mean? The fact that Rav Nachman just taught us that even though the karka and the peiros, the malva allowed the leiva to use, they still go back. From here we can extrapolate lemeimar desav Rav Nachman mechila b'tois lo have mechila. So says the Gemara, a first cousin of our sugya of Asmachta is going to be mechila, because the only way you're going to be allowed to live in that field, utilize that field, get the peiros, is of course if he lets you. So that means he was Meichel, but it was a Toyis. So must be, for the fact that Rav Nachman just taught us Hadra of Hadra Peri, must be Mechila b'Toyis is not a good Mechila. But the problem is, ask the Gemara, before they come to the world, but you can't back out. And it was here that Rav Nachman said, Av Misha Ba'olaylam Yachal. So clearly, Rav Nachman is allowing you always to be backing out. V'amar Rav Nachman, Moidina, says Rav Nachman, I'm Moideh di Shamid V'achal Loi Mafkina Minei. We just said that Rav Nachman holds what? Hadrara Mafkina Minei. Loi havi mechila, but clearly Rav Nachman holds the opposite. Says the Gemara, no kasha, hasam zvina hachalva. They're not the same cases. Over there was a sale, whereas by us it was a halva, and that's the reason why everything will go back. Amai Rava. Now that we've gotten involved in the sugya of mechila b'tois, says Rava, as we turn over to today's daf Samach Zayin, Amid Aleph teaches Rava. Have a Yisibna Kamid Rav Nachman. I was sitting in front of Rav Nachman when he taught the aforementioned halacha, as Rashi points out, Modina di Shamad V'achol, the Lamaisa Mechila B'tais, a good Mechila, Ubayla Zvia, Oina, and I wanted to ask him from the case of Oina, V'oidik, but he saw what I wanted to ask, like a good Rebbe, and he answered, Chazitan Eilinus. Look at the case of Eilinus. So now the Gemara is going to explain what his kasha was and what was the teretz. Says the Gemara of the case of Aina, the case of Aina when he willingly pays a higher price, the mechila v'tasi v'lo yavi mechila, and it's not a good mechila. Why? Because you got to return back the Aina. That was his kasha. So we see mechila b'tais is not a mechila. V'oidik, and he responded, chazit and islandist, that what? Hare islandist, in the case of kedusha to an islandist, when one does not know that she is an islandist, which as well, and he utilizes her properties, the mechila b'taisi, and v'havi mechila, it is a mechila. So we see, if you can ask for Maina, we have a raya from Eilinist. It's nan hamaenes v'ashniya v'Eilinist ein lem like suvala peiros v'loy mezaynis v'loy blois. So clearly the mechila that happened is binding. V'loy he, but now says the Gemara, in as much as he answered from the case of Ailenis. Says the Gemara, V'lohi, it's not a good teretz. Lo yino have tiyufta. Really, says the Gemara, there was never a kasha in the first place. V'lo Ailenis misayele. Nor is there a raya. Explains the Gemara. Lo Ailen, no, you're not tiyufta. Why till yada do you say no? Because in the case of Aina, he doesn't know. We were assuming that it was a case of Aina that he knew he was overpaying. How do you know? Lo yada, maybe he doesn't know. Therefore, it's never a case of mechila. Why? Because in that case, there's an additional svara which we have often by kedushin, which is the nichala to tepek Allah shema ishus. She's happy that people know that she had a shame that she was a married woman, and because of that, she willingly gives over her properties. Therefore, you cannot equate that to our case. Continues the Gemara with new pieces of the Ribbis puzzle. Hayitza, says the Gemara, there was a woman, the Amra, 15 lines down. The first line is the Amra Leila Hu Gavra. There was a woman that said to a man, Zil Zavinli Ara Mekrivai, go buy me a piece of land from my relatives. Azal Zavinla. He went and he bought the land from her. Amar Lei. So the seller says to the shliach, Ihavli Zuzi, Mahajinis Laniale. If I come up with the cash, I want to buy back the land. Amar Lei. So the shliach says, At you, Vinavla, who's the person, this woman that he was buying the land on behalf. Achi, Navla, Achi. You'll figure it out. Meaning, leave me out of this. Amar Rabba Ravuna. Kolat v'navla achi. Any such a line. Amar Samcha daita. Means the seller is relying upon that. V'logamar umakni ara. And he never went. V'logamar umakni, excuse me. He never went and really was goimer. He never really went and gave over the land. Says the Gemara. So if he never really gave over the land, Ara Hadra, the land goes back. Peri Mai. What about the peiros that in the interim were produced, the field that was utilized? Ribis ksusa have v'yotzim dayanim. Is this a case of pre-stipulated, pre-conceived ribis? Different yotzim dayanim. Ribis have vein yotzim. Do the peiros have to go back? Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna mistavra ki avak ribis have vein yotzim dayanim. And similarly, v'chein amar Rava, of course, this wasn't really stipulated, and therefore, ki avak ribis have vein yotzim dayanim, and will not be able to be paid through dayanim. So Amar le Abaye le Rabba. Now that you taught us the aforementioned case that it's like avak ribis, and therefore ein yotzim dayanim, asks Abaya, mashkanta mai, what will the din be in the case of a mashkin? In such a scenario, will he have to reimburse him or not? And explains Abaya Shaila, ha sometime amai misham deloy kitzlei, ha chanami loy kitzlei. It also wasn't specified. Odilma hasam zvina ha chalvaz. We saw in the beginning of today's shir. So maybe they can't be equated. Amar lei ha sometime amai responds Rabba. Over there, what's the reason? Misham deloy kitzlei, ha chanami loy kitzlei. Therefore, it will not be yotzei bidayanim, as will be considered avak ribis. Amar Rabapi, about 12 lines to the bottom. The first one line is Rabapi. Ovid Ravina Ovda v'chashiv v'apek peri. Says Rabapi, the Ravina lamaisa paskin, not like the aforementioned din, to like Rabba Ravuna, and rather he extrapolated, he took out the payments in Bezdin, not like it was avak ribis, but rather he did require them to pay back the peiros. Amar Mar Breid Rav Yosef. Says Mar Breid Rav Yosef Mishmei de Rava, HaMashkanta Ba'asra de Misalki, this mashkin, Ba'asra de Misalki, in a place where the story is that you're able to be Misalik, you're able to force the lender to leave the property if you repay the loan. So, meaning and thereby get back the mashkin, achal shir zuzi. If the lender in that time period that he had the field, he harvested the payraise of the field in the amount of the loan, misalkina lei, we force him from the land and the amount that he took. Again, someone Ruvain lends me $1 million. I give Ruvain my field as a mashkin, and in the 6 months that Ruvain has my field, he utilizes the field, and guess what? He got $1 million of pay rice. So now I get back my field, and I don't have to pay him anything. It's as if I paid him. Achal tfei. What if he ate more than the value of the halva? Lo mafkina minei. We don't make him pay back. Why? It's only avak ribis. Lo mechashvinan mishtar l'shtara. Nor do we change from one shtar to the next. But if it was a field of Yisaimim, then achal sher zuzei misalkina lei. Achal tfei mafkina milei. And machshina mishar l'shtara, we're more chamer on Yisaimim, making sure to get back every bit of that which they are owed or potentially owed. Amr avashti hashad amr achal tfei mafkina milei. That if the malvei more, we don't make him pay back. Achal sher zuzei namilo misalkina lei. Says Rav Ashi, the same way, you're not going to pay him back if he ate more. You shouldn't be able to exact the money if he ate the right amount. Because such a story requiring him to take the prayers that he already took as payment of the loan, that's a form of being mitzi b'dayanim, and therefore, Saluke below Zuzi Afuki Mineyu, and have a rak ribis, and yaitz b'dayanim. So Rav Ashi argues, says Rav Ashi, just like if he ate more than the amount, we will now require him to pay it back. We also, says Rav Ashi, if he ate the amount of the field, we have to still repay him the actual loan. And says the Gemara, not only is this what Rav Ashi held, Rav Ashi Lamaisa did such in a case of Ketanim Yisaimim, Kegedailim, the same din as if the Yisaimim were Ketanim. The Tab Rashi speaks out, the Chiddush being Daval Gav Dachal Sher Zuzi Lo Misal Klinalei. We didn't make him pay back. The Gustavar Mechilasan, Mitchilas Achilasan, Avak Ribis, Ve'in Koyach B'Diyanim Lo'itziyai. It's considered Avak Ribis. Amar Rava, top line, Sabach Zayin Amid Beis, continues Rava in explaining the dinim of a property which is put up as collateral, a mashkan for the loan. Amar Rava Breder Rav Yosef Mishmeder Rav, Hi Mashkant, this mashkan, again, I take a loan and therefore I put in my field as collateral. Ba'asr de Misalki, in a place in which the Misalki, in a place where the borrower, if I come up with the cash, I can pay it back and get back the land even before the due date. Lo nechol, then the lender cannot eat only if they already arrange how much every year they would deduct from the loan. And if the lender was a Talmid Chacham, he should not even eat in such a scenario. Says the Gemara, then el b'may nechol. So now, if he's a Talmid Chacham, can he make usage of the field in the interim? Says the Gemara b'kitzusa. They make a set amount of, they make a very clear deal exactly how long the Malva will be able to use the field. But says the Gemara, this is totally on that machlokes. If you hold doing such an arrangement, stipulating a precise number of years, as Rashi says, you'll see Rashi in a moment, it's mut Elaman Damar, Ksusa Asira Michael Memar, Ditmar. So now we get to the bottom of what's this din of Ksusa that we're quoting. Ksusa Pligiba, Ravacha Viravina. Chadamar Ksusa Sharia, Vachadam Ksusa Asira. So Echidami Ksusa. So says Gemara, okay, back and forth and back, but what is the case? Damar Lei, he says, Ad Chamishnin, until 5 years, Achol Nolah. Until 5 years, says the lender, I'm going to eat the produce of the field without deducing anything, without reducing from the debt of the loan that you owe me. Mikan ve'ilach, after the 5 years, then shaimin lacha kule peri. After the 5 years, then we'll consider it the value that as much as I eat will go against the halva. That's one way of learning. Igadi amri, koblona chaisa aser. No, that case would be aser. So it would be a case of ksusa. Damarlei, ad chameshnin, achal no b'nechaisa. I'll eat and reduce. Mikan ve'ilach, shamin l'chal kule peri. So says the Gemara, man daser b'kamaisa. One that says in the first case it's also shari b'esraisa. Man daser b'esraisa. Hechi shari lemichal. In what case is it going to be mutter? It says Gemara shari. In what case? In the famous ki mashkanta de surah. What's the mashkanta de surah? Tekasvi ba hachi. The following is written in the mashkanta de surah. B'mishalim shnaya elain tepek ara da beloi kesef. That in surah they would write the following in the mashkin, that at the end of such and such years, the land leaves the possession of the lender without any payment, meaning it's a lower level security that when the time elapses, regardless if the halva is paid back, the land reverts back to the borrower. Says the Gemara, Rav Papa, Ravuna, Rav Yeshua, some acumen of the line. The first line is Rav Yeshua. Amri Tervayu. Hi, Mashkanta Basa de Misalki. A mashkan in the place in which, again, the borrower could come up with the cash and get back the field in the middle of the terms of the loan. Aid Baal Chayv Gayvei Menu. The Baal Chayv would not collect from that field. Because very simply, it's not considered to have a full level of bailus to the lender, because the borrower could get it back at any moment. The opposite, then Hi mashkanta, ba'asr de misalki lay. In a place in which the borrower could pay back early and thereby get back his field, misalki lay. That lamaisa is the halacha of afilu mitamri da'abudya. And he can even stop him to take the dates be'abudya from the mat. Even if the lender already took the dates down and they're sitting on a mat, even that the borrower could get back. V'yakvinu b'sisni kaninu. But if the lender already picked up the dates, he put them in a basket, then they're his, he made a kinyan. L'man da'amar, it says more 1 second, bringing us back to an old machlokes. Kelev shalokech b'shas meicher kana, loikeach, and I feel like v'inu b'sisna kaninu. According to Man da'amar, that the kelim of the borrower would have a kinyan, even the possession of the meicher. So even if he didn't pick up the basket, once he places it in the basket, that will be enough to be considered a kinyan. We'll stop over here. We'll pick it up from the 2 dots. B'siyata dishmaya.